iRacing.
For more than 3/4 of a century, Silverstone has been among the most famous of British circuits. And today, it's going to kick off another season as we get ready to watch round one of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Alex Goldschmidt. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Alex, I imagine you're pretty excited to get things started off here over in your neck of the woods.
Yes, indeed. Hello, everybody. Hello, Joe. Yeah, the home of British motorsport. Fast, and it is really going to test the drivers tonight. It's a really good way to kick off season 2 here for POC.
No doubt. And of course, everybody from over in Alex's area will be well familiar, but for our fans that are not across the pond, let's take a look at our track guide. Welcome to Silverstone. Most famously known for being the first circuit to host a round of Formula One, this place has since become synonymous with British motorsports. Hosting everything from sports cars to touring cars to open wheels and even motorcycles, it's a track that fits a wide variety of vehicles. With 3 different layouts to choose in this latest iteration of the track, Abbey and Farm often require a greatly balanced car and some serious bravery if you're side by side. Corners such as Village, Brooklyn, Stowe, and Vale see the majority of overtaking action, but in cars with less horsepower, expect the draft to offer other opportunities. The Hangar Straight is perhaps the most notorious for draft battles to erupt. All in all, this versatile racetrack located just northwest of London provides both history in its roots and action on the tarmac. The huge number of British fans that typically attend events are seldom left wanting. Well, those that know me know that I prefer corner names to corner numbers, and that's one thing I love about this track, Alex, is pretty much every single one of them has a name.
Yeah, this particular circuit had the honour of becoming the first ever circuit in the world back in 1950 to host an official Formula One World Championship race. Measures just 3.6 miles, based in Towcester, just outside of Northampton, and it is going to be fast and technical, but everyone knows, if you are a motorsport fan and you recognise Silverstone, the iconic Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel complex heading down from turns 10 to 14, and then it's the long run down the Hangar Straight, well, a circuit corner you can actually overtake at, despite the best efforts of former Red Bull Racing team principal Christian Horner saying you can't overtake that. We have seen it too wide. People go around the outside or the inside, but it is a tricky corner, and that's going to be taken at high speed.
Yeah, even in these Porsches, it's going to be pretty quick through there. It's going to be tricky. Now, we will talk some more about that in a second. First, we want to take a quick moment to mention our sponsors, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun Wealth, your retirement wingman. Contact them today for a complimentary financial review at TopGunWM.com. That's TopGunWM.com. Well, we have wrapped up the championship from last time out. Dylan Scott is a return champion, but we, of course, have a race to run here for the first time this season. So real quick, Alex, if you wouldn't mind running us over some of the race details.
Okay, so it's the opening round of Season 2, 12 rounds in total, 40 minutes on the timer, with the pit stop having to be engaged by all drivers. We're using the Porsche 911 992.2 Cup car, rolling start, and every driver has 2 spare cars at their disposal if they go a little bit off track, let's say.
And find something solid. They'll definitely need that. Alan Watts, unfortunately, has gone off track here at the end of qualifying, so he's going to be our only driver unable to set a time that we think is going to be taking part in this race. But up at the top, Jad Duncan holds the provisional pole, checking to see if anybody has an opportunity to try to beat him to that. And I think the only one right now is BJ Fulton in the number 2, or 82, excuse me. Everybody else has come into pit lane. So we watch him through the Maggots and Beckett sequence now and see whether or not he can take these last few corners quick enough to be able to move up from that 4th position.
Yeah, BJ's now positioning his car towards the left-hand side of the circuit to carry the momentum through this fast right-hander here at Stowe. And a little downshift, a little lift off, a little dab of brakes, and then it's the short run up to Vale and then Club. But he's going to abort that lap and go straight down into pit road here, Joe. So that is going to mean that Chad Duncan, by a hair strand, has taken pole position for the opening round out of 12 this season for season 2.
Yeah, look at that tower on the left-hand side, 0.003 of a second on the front row. BJ Fulton was practicing that pit entry, which I have to imagine the drivers are going to have to do, because even BJ got a black flag from coming in too hot there. It was so tempting to try to maximize your way into those cones there at the front, as you see the rest of the field already parked in pit lane, just waiting for the clock to officially hit 0 so that we can go to the grid. I imagine, like you were saying, there's places that you can pass here, some of them a little sketchier than others, but I'm curious to see how the racing will go, because they have these long straights, but it's such a technical track, it could spread out easily, Alex.
Yeah, one of the touch points here at Silverstone, Joe, will be coming down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands, then into Luffield and Woodcote. So it's just about making sure that you position the car correctly. This is a fast track. It is very, very technical, and millimeter style precision is going to be your friend here at this 3.6 mile track. I mean, it's a place I visited quite a few times for Formula One, for the World Endurance Championship, when the 6 Hours of Silverstone, which I'm so glad to see is coming back on the calendar next year. It is going to really... Now, look at that livery. It's time for the smug face. On that's probably been his good luck charm, having Jeremy Clarkson and Messrs. Hammond and May on the side of his Porsche.
I just had been noticing that too, reading a few messages that he had plastered across there, but it looks like we are ready to go for the starting grid, and Chad Duncan is on that top spot. Thomas Isabel going to be starting next to him. They're looking very close on pace. However, Dylan Scott, we saw last year, couldn't quite get his qualifying together a few times, but was unstoppable over the course of the events. BJ Fulton will start next to him on that second row. We've got Dustin Heindel starting from 5th. Robert Leclerc will be 6th position. Then it's Mark Rondeau starting at 7th, flanked by Christopher Marciniak on the outside of row number 4.
Yeah, Blake Sams and Lydon Rondeau. Lydon being the youngest of our competitors here on the POC Sim Racing League. They round out row 5 ahead of John Momayer and Larry Haas. Jim Garamani rounds out 13th. I don't think Arlo Salve's going to be joining us, but has a kind of one that hasn't got a lap time registered. But Alan Watson, the Lando Special livery, going to start all the way down at the back end of the grid.
Gonna have to try and pull some of the world champion energy to get himself up the field if he's got the pace, but was clearly struggling getting clean laps in. Now, that could wind up being important, because one of the things that they do have in this series is an incident limit. At 17, you're going to get a drive-through, and then every 5 after that, you get more drive-throughs until you hit 34, at which point you'll be disqualified. So you definitely want to try and keep it within those track limits during this 40-minute race, so you could easily wind up not seeing the checkered flag. You can see they're going to be starting at the end of the hangar straight, so it's only going to be a couple corners, and then we are off and running for the first race of the season. A complete reset on the points, so we're left to see who can kick things off with a good haul and start themselves at the front of the field in the championship. Pace car is in, and it's handed over to Duncan and Isabel to start things off. It'll be a fast blast down towards Abbey, and then, of course, the first real serious braking zone into Village. Will we see action into there, where it's often easy to tangle with one another with so many back and forths at the start of the lap? They're off of Club Corner. looking down the Hamilton straight, and there is the green flag. And it's a good start from Dylan Scott, who's already creeping up on the top two. He's thinking about a 3 wide, then backs out of it. As behind, they'll go mostly 2 by 2 through Abbey Corner. Now it's down through Farm and towards Village into the braking.
Chad Duncan really engaged that start through the first and the second phase as we now head into the loop. Someone's going a little bit wide to the back of it. Probably Lyden Rondeau's gone for a dive and a half through into the main part of the loop as they're going to head through Aintree now as Thomas Isabel wheel to wheel. Duncan runs a little bit wide coming out of Aintree. Here comes Dylan Scott. He's going to make it 3 abreast on the run down the Wellington Straight in towards Brooklands, and he's got the move done early before hitting the apex. But this is going to be a bit too close for comfort. Isabel leaning on Duncan into Lovefield, but what a run by Dylan Scott after the first nearly half a lap. He's now starting to stride away. Coming out of Woodcote, it's nearly a half a second advantage as Isabel to the outside of Duncan. That's precarious and it's very best as we go down the National Pit Straight, heading into Cox.
A little bit of contact between them just on the exit of Luffield. Thankfully, they'll get away with it. Both of them washing out wide here through Copse. And that is allowing Dustin Heindel to start to catch up behind. He's trying to become a factor in this. Things slow down once again through the Maggots and Beckett sequence, all very single file behind them. Good, clean start. That is what we love to see in this series. But fascinating run from Dylan Scott. Had a chance to make it 3 wide early, decided not to. Waited for the second opportunity to do so, and did so successfully. Good run from Thomas Isabel to the outside, and once again, a little bit of car contact as he pinches down on Dylan Scott. Dylan will remain in the lead, but we got a little bit of a cutback coming off the corner. Alex, he gets another try at it.
Yeah. He's going to find himself difficult to get through on Dylan Scott going through into Vale, as now they're going to come round to head their way through Club Corner. Lyden Rondeau's had a bit of a storming start. He started P10. He's now up into 4th, the youngest driver on the grid, 14 years of age. Son of Mark Rondeau, who's all the way down in 10th position. Again, this is what we're seeing here. But Lyden Rondeau, new livery for him. Also, a new livery for Rob Leclerc in the 710, whereas Dustin Heindel is going to stay our resident Cookie Monster for Season 2 with the Chips Ahoy livery. But again, this first race is where everyone is on the same level as we ride on board with Lyden Rondeau. And again, he had a season that was very much character building, let's say, Joe, but he's come flying out of the blocks like Carl Lewis at the 1984 LA Olympic Games.
Certainly looks fast today. Washes out a little bit wide down into Brooklands. Doesn't lose a position. I would say he was maybe just a little error prone last season, but definitely showed some speed, and I think that's what we're seeing now as things get tight once again for the top spot. Thomas Isabel is now right behind Dylan Scott. Dylan's going to cover the inside down into Copse Corner. Thomas could have a chance to pull the cut back on him if he gets good enough speed, and while the momentum is there, he switches sides momentarily and then gets back in line behind him. He certainly looks aggressive, does the 9.
Yeah, I think he wants to get back out in front, but he's got to watch it because look at this quartet as Chad Duncan nearly into the back of him as they now make their way through out of Chapel down the Hanger Straight. I still remember back in 2014 at the right-hand side of the Johnny Walker Bridge. That's where Kimi Räikkönen had his 50G accident. As Isabel trying to go round the outside here at Stowe. That's going to be a good attempt, but it might set him up nicely here into Vale. He's got the inside line on the Aussie. Man who who's looking for the 3P. But Scott to the outside, and he's getting his elbows out, and he's got back through here at Club. Thomas Isabel is throwing the NFL playbook at Dylan Scott. But the man in the 08 is sucking up the pressure like a sponge.
Gives another big look coming up to Abbey. Maybe decides better of that with it being such a fast corner. Kind of surprised he did not get that one done down into Vale. Seemed like he had a pretty far chunk of his car alongside, just could not make it stick. Instead, he's going to go for a surprise attack down into the loop. But it's a question of who can get the speed coming off of Aintree, because it is such a long straight down the Wellington Straights, and it looks like it's a little bit in favor of the car to the outside of Dylan Scott. Back on him, Thomas Isabel, able to brake a little bit deeper. He holds the inside through Brooklands. Once again, the track is going to switch sides, and the battle rages on. He tries to go as far into the corner as he can, does Thomas Isabel, and this time it looks like it has worked. He is back to the point.
Yeah, but the thing is, they've got to keep an eye on the battle between themselves and the man behind them, Jan Duncan, who put it on pole position by 3/1000 of a second, and here goes Dylan Scott, shows his nose going into Cop's corner. Put the brightness on Thomas Isabel, and bearing in mind here, Joe, the top three covered going into Maggotts, Beckett's and Chapel, covered by about 0.4, half a second, and they're all on the brakes. It's a deceleration zone, because this is the tightest part of this triple corner complex, and Jad Duncan again having to get off of the throttle and keep out of the back end of Dylan Scott. But now Thomas Isabel moves to the left-hand side to try and set things up for the run here into Stowe. Gets very close to the white line on the outside of the entry point to the corner. But it was just about getting those elbows out a little bit, and that's exactly what we've seen. A very, very aggressive start to the campaign for Thomas Isabel. Here comes Dustin Heindel to the outside of Leiden Rondeau through at Vale, and he's going to run off track. This is going to bring BJ Fulton into the mix. There's a crossover between the pair. I'm not too sure whether Dustin Heindel might get a slowdown penalty for that, but it's brought BJ Fulton into the mix for the battle for fourth place. And also, look at this, Chris Marciniak, 2 seasons ago was the GT4 champion, and he's now deciding, I'm sorry, you guys are not going to have all the fun. And there's Rob Leclerc. Look at the razzle dazzle on that paint job in the 710.
And I can report that Heindel did not actually get a slowdown penalty with that move. Interestingly, I'm with you. I would have thought that iRacing would have triggered that. But yes, the 701 with quite a bit of speed. Same thing with Blake Sams in the 14, who's got a little bit of flair on that machine and is showing it well, taking 8th place off of Marciniak with that move. The 35 will slot back into line. As almost as if on cue that the front finally settled down, those in the mid-pack suddenly have kicked it up.
Yeah, and now it's about getting into the next 20 minutes and just getting into that flow state here around this track. As I said, you know, precision is your friend, even though this is fast and technical. You've just got to pick your chances, pick your moments, as we've got the battle with Chris Marciniak. And he's got Mark Rondeau right behind him in the number 11. Blake Sams just a little bit further ahead. And then it's Leclerc in 7th. BJ Fulton, Leiden Rondeau. Dustin Heindel's now getting away from the number 8 to the tune of about 0.7 of a second, heading down the hangar straightaway. But one of the good things I love about this series, it's always nice to see a little bit of different changes of paintwork to the Porsche 992 Cup cars here, Joe.
They certainly get creative with it at times, and there's another little look off of Mark Rondeau trying to get the position off of Marciniak. Christopher's in a bit of an awkward position. Not only does he have to play defense on the 11, but as we mentioned, Blake Sams still close in front of him, and he probably wants that position back. They'll tick off yet another lap as we check up on Leclerc and Fulton. This is for 6th place. The braking down into Village. A little bit of gap left down at the apex by BJ, but Rob unable to pick it up. Now he goes for the undercut here, coming off of the loop. Once again, we got a car spinning in front of him. That is Leiden Rondeau handing over 2 positions.
It's a bit of a shame, just overcooked it going through into Aintree and down the Wellington Straight. Of course, this circuit, for those aficionados of the multiple Porsche championships that run across the world, this normally is the site of the CarWow Porsche Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge GB series. Of course, the latter one, a name that we both know through his efforts through Porsche Coanda. Josh Rogers having a lot of success in the Cayman GT4. But again, it is a track that is so unforgiving, and the drivers might say, well, you might think, yeah, they've got these nice long straightaways, Wellington, Hamilton, National Pit Straight. You're not really breathing. You're sort of you're breathing in and bracing yourself for the run through the next corner.
Yeah, I think getting those corner exits so key around here. Rob looking very good in that 710 is BJ Fulton is trying to shake him, not really weaving too much to get rid of that slipstream, but it also looks like the 710 isn't able to try and make a dive, or is he? He seems to think he is there. He has given just enough space, and now that maybe gives him a chance coming up to Vale. Switches over to the left-hand side briefly and then back to the racing line as he hooks up to the rear bumper of BJ Fulton, almost pushing him through the corner of that psychedelic car, seeing if he can get any sort of response out of the 82. Ooh, that was close.
He nearly had a code brown coming out of club there. The back end stepped out to the left-hand side. He managed to catch it because it could have been a tank slapper and could have sent him into the pit wall.
Thankfully, did not actually make contact. Leiden Rondeau after his spin. Did he actually make contact there with Marciniak? He's going to go well around the outside, and it doesn't work for him, though. This was where he spun one lap ago and winds up in this 9th position. Marc Rondeau weaving off to the left-hand side, driver's left, as he has a whiff at trying to pass Leiden, but Leiden shuts the door as they steer into the corner. In fact, gives him a firm no as he completely covers off that line mid-apex. This is starting to get a little bit feistier.
Yes. Especially when both drivers in 9th and 10th just happen to have the same surname. So Mark has been a part of this Sim Racing League for many years, and it's great to see Leiden joining the crew here. But he is giving big chase to a former champion of the Porsche Owners Club. And look, right on the rear bumper, through into Maggots, into Beckett. Oh, and he's got off a little bit off track. This could probably bring Mark back into it. I think he might have copped a slowdown penalty there. Yeah, it looks like he's lifting off. And that's going to allow Mark to get side by side. Oh dear. Just don't try and hit each other, guys. And this kind of reminds me of Porsche Endurance Challenge Brazil this past weekend at Portimao. Dylan Pereira getting basically hoodwinked and got closed off by Bruno Campos coming into turn 9 at Craig Jones at Portimao. So that was nearly a carbon copy of that incident.
Yeah, again, getting away with it for now, but love that these two are unafraid of racing close and hard. The 11 will now take that 9th spot after Rondeau's mistake coming through Maggots. Meanwhile, Dylan Scott, for a little while, actually was within about 0.2 of Thomas Isabel. We didn't quite show it, but he was getting dangerously close. He's fallen back since then. So Thomas responding to him, not letting him stay that close, as we've had a problem for Blake Sams. And it looks like it's the same thing that happened to Rondeau, and he falls back to 10th because of it.
That's the biggest problem when you come through the loop, and then you're trying to find your acceleration point between the loop and into Aintree whilst turning the corner. And so we've seen both our drivers at the bottom end of the top 10 both being bitten by the same bit of track. So we've got a replay coming up here now, and this is what happened to Blake Sams. So switches wide, turns it in, and that's going to be, that was a little bit off of the exit curbing, so it's the right rear that starts to rotate the car around. And, well held by Blake Sams to keep it out of harm's way.
Indeed. Now we check back in with BJ Fulton and Dustin Heindel. Battle for 4th. BJ in the gray car behind, the blue Cookie Monster machine. Dustin Heindel doesn't cover him off initially. Now he starts to drift back across the track just to dissuade BJ from trying anything sneaky into Stowe. They'll stay as they were, and a little bit wide there by Fulton coming off the corner with that paved runoff. That's one of those spots you do have to be careful about racking up the incident points with, and they'll come by to complete another lap. Getting close to the halfway point of this race with some of these tight battles. Who is going to elect to make an early stop, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things is that obviously the fuel mileage is going to be a heavy consideration for these drivers over this opening round here, Joe. So you're looking at about 75 to 80% full throttle, pretty much. as there has been dramas. Rob Leclerc has dropped into the clutches of Marc Rondeau. How about that for a move round the outside? You don't see that very often there, coming through out of Village and into Farm. Contact between Blake Sams and Marc Rondeau, and Blake Sams spins again.
And causes Leiden Rondeau to have to take avoiding action. Thankfully, is able to get out of the way in time. It's been a miserable couple of laps for Blake Sams after that one. Leiden moves up to 9th, and Marc Rondeau will hold on to 8th. But yeah, Leclerc probably very much appreciating all that action, because it gives him a chance to breathe a little bit while it was getting quite busy behind him, with drivers wanting to pick up some positions. There you see Leiden now. I think the fact that he had to lift did cost him some time, because you could see John Momeyer starting to get ever closer as well.
Yeah, John's made some steady progress over the course of the 16 minutes that have elapsed so far, Joe, as we've got 24 to go. I mean, coming back to the question that you asked me, and I was in the process of responding before we saw Blake Sams. But let's have a look at it again. So he dives to the inside, catches the left rear fender of Marc, and then bang. And, well, he got an inadvertent assist because Leiden had nowhere to go on that one.
Must have been the lightest of touches, because I don't even see any damage on the car. Maybe just scraped a bit of the paint off the corner, and yeah, it looks pretty clean to me as he comes down into the braking at Stowe in that number 8 machine. But yeah, actually, the question has been answered. BJ Fulton's going to be the first. He managed to avoid any sort of speeding penalty, so that's good to see after his pushing the limit there in the qualifying session. But now we watch and wait to see where this releases him. Will he have clear air, and will he be able to use this to maybe jump a few people, since he should hopefully not be facing up against anybody. Doesn't look like he's putting any tires on, fuel only, and that he should be back out here at almost exactly 10 seconds.
Yeah, well, we do know about this man. We've seen it many a time here, Joe, that BJ Fulton is the master of fuel saving. Meantime, we have got a real battle on our hands for P2, because Thomas Isabel is 2.3 seconds up the road. Dylan Scott is now being chased down by Jad Duncan. Ambitious, but rubbish on the back bumper of that car. I was just waiting for it maybe to just have power in big white letters across the back end of that thing, considering who's got on the side of the car. But and then it's got Volkswagen Beetle, of course, a little nod to the grandfather of the Porsche 911.
Exactly, and yeah, there it is, right there. There's the power on the driver's right. I see. I figured that would be more appropriate on the engine bay, but I still think it's great that he has it on there. He's been doing everything he can to take second off of Dylan Scott. That was more of a psychological move coming down to Stowe. He was never going to be able to get to the inside of him there, but clearly looking quicker in this stage of the race, after it seemed like Dylan Scott was the one that was focused forward, looking to try and pass Isabel.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that Thomas Isabel had the fire quite literally in the belly, and was just gunning for that race lead and thought, okay, I need to hit the front. And when you've got clear air here at Silverstone, Joe, you can take complete advantage of it. And one of the other things that we have to consider is that with the cooling systems on these 992.2 Cup cars, they're located behind the front bumper, as Chips Ahoy, Dustin Heidel comes into pit lane for P5. So we might see, Dustin doing a pretty good, he's come through at about halfway through the race. We've had a little bit of a spin in the background. That was coming out of Luffield and Woodcourt going on to the national pits, going on to the...
I think that was out of club.
Yeah, out of club. So it might have been Leiden Rondeau possibly. Let's have a look at the replay. Yeah, so you can see he's trying to accelerate. I have to say, the racecraft that Leiden Rondeau has accumulated over the past season, it's really put him in good stead, because that is a pretty damn good save. As here goes Blake Sams, quite easily to the inside of Rob Leclerc. It looks like an Amazonian jungle does that paintwork. Oh, it's mushrooms.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe in Alice in Wonderland world, perhaps, that sort of jungle. But worth noting that Heindel came out ahead of Fulton, and Fulton actually emerged just behind a battle between Jim Garamani and Larry Haas, who actually had contact in front of him after he came out of the pits. So may have slowed him down a little bit for an opportunity to try and jump past the 117, who now gains some track position once this pit cycle is through. We're officially halfway through the race, and Thomas Isabel has been stretching his lead. It is now up to 2.5 seconds. We're checking in on Leclerc versus Sams. Both have had their own fair share of trouble, but how about John Momeyer in front of them? 5 positions gained so far, although he's slow off the corner, and he's going to pit in this time.
Yeah, another driver that's used season 1 here in 2026 for the POC as a learning phase. I mean, these cars aren't that easy to get to grips with when you look at the likes of Marciniak and also Momar and Larry Haas and Alan Watts. Before we made the switch last season to these 992.2 Cup cars, they were running in the GT4s. So a very, very big jump in comparison from going from GT3s that we saw with the likes of Dylan Scott, Jad Duncan, Mark Rondeau, BJ Fulton, as Garamani now comes into the pits. Another bright paint job there for the 163 with the WeatherTech logo on the side. Momea now on his way out of pit road. You've got to be very careful on the rejoin here. It's uphill. It's a bit like Yas Marina, but not to the point where you actually go underneath the track. You come out by the side of the track, and you've got to watch the rejoin off the pit road exit.
He is going to come out well in the clear. Currently sitting in 12th position. Garamani will emerge behind him in 13th. I was looking at some of those pit stop times, too. Fulton was much quicker than Heindel. I'm kind of surprised. He must have really got held up by that battle in front of him to have lost that position to the 117. Long stop for Momeyer as well at 13 seconds. Garamani at about 11.2. We're back to Leclerc and Sams, who both owe us a pit stop at this phase. So watch for them to come in and serve that shortly as they fly down the hangar straight once again. They should probably be able to get to a few laps farther than this if last season is anything to go by. Some of the cars managing to get down to about 5 minutes to go. Stretching it out pretty decently, but under braking. Well, there we go. No, not under braking. It's under pit entry that Leclerc is going to get by as Sams is now in.
Yeah, I probably would have expected a fuel load to the tune of what BJ Fulton has put in, which is just under 9.9 seconds. You'd probably say that if you get into the last 15 minutes or so here, Joe, at Silverstone, that's probably about the fuel you need to put in the car. But I think we could possibly see, this is just sometimes there are predictions, and I would say that probably most cars, or if not all cars, may have pitted by 3/4 of the time and ticking down, so probably by the time we hit about 10 minutes. But that depends on how the drivers at the sharp end are managing their fuel, and that could be a case in point. But in the meantime, Jad Duncan is now way off the rear bumper of Dylan Scott. He's 6.3 seconds off. So it looks like Jad might have had a drama. Yes, his last lap time reflects that. Dylan Scott, 2-minute 2.584. Jad Duncan, 2-minute 8.035. A loss of 5.5 seconds there for the number 83 who put it on pole.
Sounds to me like something in the realm of either a half spin or a few big offs where he just lost some time, judging by the amount of time lost there. By the way, Blake Sams returned in 10th, pretty much a perfect stop. And Lyden Rondeau, has he had more issues out here?
Yeah, he had a slow down penalty. He pulled to the right-hand side of the national pit straight. So he's had an off track, and that's cost him, I'm afraid.
Wonder if that was a slowdown penalty of some sort for him. There's various places for those unsure of what we're talking about where the sim automatically will watch and sees if the car goes through a series of invisible gates, essentially. And if you go through them, you have to give time back, usually roughly about 1 second, to prevent drivers from cheating, essentially, and cutting the course to gain time. Marc Rondeau will keep going around. In fact, he's all the way up to fourth now that we've had Marciniak pit in. At least half the fields have now taken their pit stops, but we're still waiting on Isabel, Scott, Duncan, Marc Rondeau, and Leclerc. But Leiden Rondeau's adventures off of the track boundaries have now netted him our first black flag for too many incident points.
And for him, it was all going so well. He was shot out of a cannon like a rocket when he got he got up to fourth place, starting from P10. So it's a real shame for Leiden. I mean, again, it's another character building race for the number 8.
Especially like we saw at the beginning, where the speed looked mighty in that number 8 car, but is not able to really show it off. Just unfortunately a few too many mistakes. Thomas Isabel trying to avoid running into that issue himself. He still leads this one as we check on BJ Fulton. And he is catching up to Heindel, I'm pretty sure. Let's see what the last lap was. About 0.4 of a second quicker than the Cookie Monster car last time.
Yeah, but he was a little bit slower in that opening sector on this lap, as Isabel into the pits with just under 13.5 minutes to go. Dylan Scott covers him off. What about Jad Duncan? That's the big question that also needs to be answered. Or will he go for a little bit longer? That's the big thing. He's into the pits. And so we're just waiting for Marc Rondeau and Rob Leclerc to come in as well. As I said, it's about the nature of the circuit. Marc Rondeau now into the pits. Larry Haas is the only other driver apart from Rob Leclerc that's yet to come into pit road. And Leclerc's coming through sector 3 at the moment here, Joe. And he's staying out.
Yes, indeed. So he's, I think, the only one that's going to be able to make it to lap 15 for his pit stop. But to tell you how far back he was, Isabel has emerged next to him. So those spins and issues for the 710 have put him well behind the 8 ball. We come back to Heindel versus Fulton. BJ wants that spot back after the pit sequence did not work out in his favor. Unfortunately for him, Jad Duncan is also directly behind after the pit stop. So he can't dilly-dally too much if he starts to battle with the 117.
Yeah, Larry Haas now into pit lane, Joe. So Rob Leclerc is the only one that needs to provide us with a pit stop, and he is right on the tail end. He's stuck in the middle between Isabel and Scott at the moment. The top 3 covered by a second. So I would imagine that Rob Leclerc might pull the 710 into pit road next time, because he might be very marginal on his fuel limit. But he's done a really good job. But I think BJ Fulton's, we've always known that BJ's been really, really good on fuel mileage management. And just to be that little bit quicker than the car in front, and last time round, well, he was 0.2 quicker than Dustin Heindel. So that's the battle for P4, that when Rob Leclerc pits, it will become the battle for the final step on the rostrum. Again, Mr. Consistency, using that fuel mileage wizardry to his advantage.
And I just noticed that Leclerc backed off down the hangar straight. I'm not sure if that was a slowdown penalty or if he was allowing Dylan Scott to go by, since that was not his fight. Dylan is trying to battle for the win, as now we finally see the very efficient on the fuel mushroom car of Robert Leclerc, who comes down a pit lane. The 82 then should be promoted back up to 4th, and what he's hoping is a podium, but it will depend on whether or not he can re-overtake Dustin Heindel here in these last 10 minutes of the race. And on top of that, if he can keep Jad Duncan behind him as well, because we can't forget that Duncan started this thing on pole. Surely that car should have good pace underneath it.
Yeah, And when you consider the fact that BJ Fulton pitted 6 laps ago, you know, I'm wondering how marginal he's going to be on fuel. But Jad Duncan, on his pit stop, it was pretty much nearly even Stevens with BJ Fulton on total pit stop transfer time. 41.713 for Fulton, 41.728 for Jad Duncan. But the thing is, with Dustin Heindel having taken on an additional second and a half's worth of fuel, that's going to put him at a slight disadvantage. So that's why we're seeing BJ Fulton act like a rocket ship at the moment. Down the national pit straight into Copse Corner. I think BJ Fulton's going to be teeing up a move down into Stowe Corner off of the hanger straight here, Joe, as they go through Adam Copse. And they will build the speed now into Maggots at 140 miles an hour. Lift off the throttle, and it's down to 100. So they're going to be less, about 85 or so miles an hour coming out of Chapel very shortly, maybe even UK highway speeds. And now they start to accelerate. BJ Fulton will now get the slipstreaming engaged, but it takes a little while to set in with these Porsche 992.2 Cup cars. 9 minutes to go out of 40, and the battle between Messrs Heindel, Fulton and Duncan continues. The final step on the rostrum.
Fulton just not able to get close enough to make it happen. This is the best battle we've got on track, because Scott's still sitting about a second and a half behind Isabel, unable to claw him back in. They'll cross the line to start lap 16 now, and with just barely half a second between BJ and Dustin, surely something is going to happen sooner rather than later between these two. I don't think Fulton is going to let this just slide here and wants to try and get up to the podium. A little bit different line between the pair of them down through Village and the Loop, but the important one is here through Aintree, keeping the throttle down. Both sounded pretty good to me. And look at how close BJ Fulton is. He's going to start closing in bit by bit, but he runs out of straightaway at the end of Wellington, and he can't send the dive yet.
Yeah, there in the background with this wonderful onboard view, the BRDC clubhouse. What is that? That's not the full rig of Dustin Heindel. Is it like Cookie Gan or something like that? I spot. So he's definitely gone with the full Chips Ahoy Cookie Monster reference nickname that we gave him last season.
I think it's maybe a Williams reference at like Atlassian, I think, because it looks like Cookies Ann.
Yeah, well, Cookie Gan Chips Ahoy Racing. There we go.
So it's he continues to lead BJ Fulton, but Jad Duncan, I think, has been creeping forward. It was about 0.2 quicker than BJ last lap. We'll see what this one holds between the pair of them as they come up to the braking of Stowe. Probably just a light brush in these cars to bleed off the speed, but it is a blind crest over that corner. And then you've got to switch sides, as you can see, to brake heavily down into the Vale chicane, which essentially bleeds directly into Club. One long, sinewy corner that dumps you onto the main straight. And still, he is ahead of that number 82. Leiden Rondeau looks like he has copped another penalty, unfortunately. Remember, they come every 5 incidents now, so it's going to be hard to avoid them, and he's got to be very clean. Meanwhile, Thomas Isabel now a full 2 seconds ahead of Dylan Scott and climbing.
Yeah, Dylan Scott's making up a little bit of time in the middle sector here, Joe, but in sectors 1 and 3, that is where Thomas Isabel is absolutely frighteningly fast, but Scott is still trying to close that gap. Will spend an extra 2.5 tenths of a second stationary on his marks in pit road, but we know how Dylan can be, you know, when he gets the opportunity to go for it. As here we go, out of Luffield, and it's going to be the run through Woodcote. That gap is still quite close, less than 3 tenths coming onto the national pit straight. BJ Fulton in the wheel tracks of Dustin Heindel as they now head their way down in towards Copse Corner. He sticks in the wheel tracks. That gap is around about edging on 2 tenths of a second. Once again at 125 miles an hour. We'll accelerate to 140, heading into Maggots. And BJ Fulton's just got to stay with Dustin Heindel. He can't let him scarper off into the distance and make it nice and cleanly through here at Chapel. That's a better run for BJ Fulton. So he's going to be less than 3/10 behind the Cookie Monster. But Jad Duncan, as you rightly said, he's been like a stealthy assassin. But BJ Fulton is within that 0.2 of a second window. He needed to be a little bit closer to go for the opportunistic move up the inside through into Stowe. Heindel runs a little bit wide through the corner, but still stays mid-track. And here goes the switchback attempt. Here comes BJ Fulton, late on the brakes, and he's got the job done.
Clean move. Oh, but now he goes a little bit wide all the way into Club, and Dustin's going to pick up the opportunity. He gets to the inside of him, and he is back ahead. It was oh so brief for BJ Fulton through there, and he's got to do the work over again. I wonder if he can stay this close, he can continue to put the pressure on, continue to try to get mistakes out of that 117, or he could have to play a defense, because here comes Jad Duncan. He feels like they've had enough of their own fun. It's time for him to join in on the action.
Yeah, I did say about Jad Duncan, he was just waiting. It's about picking his spots here at Silverstone. Now, BJ Fulton finds himself a good half a second behind Dustin Heindel, as they will now head back down the Wellington straight. But look at how late on the dive was from BJ Fulton into Brooklands and into Luffield. Jad Duncan now has a real good opportunity here out of Luffield into Woodcote. The drivers will normally go as far right as they dare, get very close to the Armco barrier to the inside, then over the National Pit Straight, which is normally the starting point for events such as the Silverstone 500 at the British GT. But again, once more at over 140 miles an hour into Maggots. It's 0.8 that covers these three drivers. But still, I have to be in, well, and that is over the battle for the final step on the rostrum. Blake Sams now closing in. And, oh, Rob Leclerc has got a black flag. So, is not going to help him, and he's about 12 seconds off of this battle. But it's Marciniak, Rondeau and Sams battling away over P6. That's Mark Rondeau with Leiden a lap down, I'm afraid.
Oh, and now Blake Sams has got a black flag. Oh. So he's also gone over the incident limit. It's starting to rack up out here. Drivers just going a little bit too far over things. We return to the fight for third, fourth, and fifth. Heindel has it. Fulton wants it. Duncan wants to be past both of them. There's another lapped car coming up ahead. I think that is, in fact, Leiden Rondeau.
As Blake Sams comes in to serve his black flag penalty. Of course, we do know that if you decide not to serve said black flag penalty, that is going to be a 35-second penalty that's going to be added to your total race time and dump you down the order. Rob Leclerc now pits in the Alice in Wonderland mushroom car. Yeah, 7:10. That's just the rumble down pit lane at the appropriate pit lane speed limit. But with 1 minute and 45 to go next time round, we should get the white flag here, Joe, for Thomas Isabel, as he's bridged that lead, Dylan Scott, to what is now about 2.5 seconds.
There is your leader, and you're right. By the time they get to the start-finish line, there won't be enough for another full lap, so white flag should be displayed as he weaves back and forth. He's put a lap on Alan Watts, who now separates himself from P2. So we'll see whether or not that helps or hinders the Australian, who certainly gave it a good run on this one, but Thomas Isabel is making sure he's got his work cut out for him on the battle for the championship. Certainly coming out swinging as we jump back to third place once more. Heindel with a phenomenal job today, up into this third place after the pit stops, and has basically been withstanding some impressive onslaught from two different drivers.
One of the things that does not surprise me is how BJ Fulton has kept up this pace, but oh, Jad Duncan throwing the anchors out of the back of the number 83. Had to check up there. That has lost him time to the back of BJ Fulton, but white flag in the air, Joe. Final lap underway for Thomas Isabel, as he makes his way through Sector 1, final time.
Down through Abbey, switching into Village. Anybody got any surprises here? And it looks like that is a no, as they once again go through the loop for the last time. Little bit of a slide off the corner from Dustin Heindel. Is that going to set things up for BJ Fulton? He's been very close here, but never really close enough to try and make a pass at Brooklands. Much heavier braking zone than other ends of long straights here, but no, he has to back out of it despite the wheel spin from the number 117 coming out of Aintree.
Yeah, as Thomas Isabel makes his way through Copse Corner, and then it's going to be the run to Maggots, Beckett and Chapel here on lap 21, the last lap of the race, as these three battling over the last step of the rostrum. Heindel versus Fulton versus Duncan through into Copse Corner. Still, it's been really interesting to see how competitive Dustin Heindel has come out of the block sprinting in the 117 Chips Ahoy car, and he is still soaking up that pressure. But Thomas Isabel makes his way down the hangar straight for the final time. Over to you, Joe.
Well, this is going to be close on that fight for second. Look at them all almost nose to tail, as like you said, Thomas Isabel has essentially 3 corners left to go, a weave back and forth for our battle for P2. We haven't seen him for a while here, Thomas Isabel. In fact, I don't think he even showed up at all last season. But here, he is going to start it off with a win at Silverstone with round 1. Second goes to Dylan Scott. And we have a battle for third, getting to the inside briefly. BJ Fulton made a last-ditch effort. Is it going to be enough, though? No! How in the world did Dustin Heindel hold on to that for that many laps to get himself a podium finish?
Well, he basically stole third place off of BJ Fulton. It was just the carry round through Vale, and I think the biggest problem for BJ is that he needed a little bit more room to get that traction down early, but Dustin Heindel was on the loud pedal a lot quicker. Good work by Chris Marciniak. Started P8, finishes P6 ahead of Mark Rondeau. Blake Sams, well, remember beginning of last season, Joe, Blake Sams was the one that surprised everybody at the opening round of Spa, including you and me in the commentary box. It's going to be a case of, you know, regroup, get ready for 2 weeks' time for round 2.
Very much so. I don't think he'll be satisfied with the way that one went, but always room for improvement. John Momeyer comes back with a 10th place finish. Garamani up 2 spots to give himself a P11, just finishing ahead of Larry Haas here at the very end. And that is everybody across the line. So it gives us an opportunity to go through today's finishing results with 14 cars starting the race and all 14 getting to the end, not all of them completing all 20 laps, however. But it was Thomas Isabel who got to that checkered flag first, and he beat out Dylan Scott, both of them gaining 1 position from where they began this race. Dustin Heindel up 2 to finish P3. BJ Fulton was where he started this race in 4th, and then confusing race for Jad Duncan, who was so fast in qualifying, only managed a 5th in the race itself. Chris Marciniak wound up in 6th spot. Mark Rondeau was 7th. 8th goes to Blake Sams.
Yeah, and we turn the page. Rob Leclerc finishes in 9th, ahead of John Momeyer, who had a pretty good run in there, along with Jim Garamani, who runs that 11th. Larry Haas, 12th, ahead of Alan Watts, with Lloyd and Rondeau unfortunately finishing 2 laps off of the leader, but a good bit of stats there. Dustin Heindel, most positions gained. Thomas Isabel leading 18 of the 21 laps, and also taking the fastest lap with a 2-minute 1.776.
That takes us to Thomas Isabel, our victor for today. I'd love to hear how he felt about the race as a whole, but first of all, Thomas, I want to ask you about the start. You, Dylan Scott, and Jad Duncan with a 3-wide moment on the first lap. What was going through your head as that started to happen?
Yeah, Dylan took a great opportunity to kind of capitalize on the fact that Jad and I were scrapping there. And yeah, the only thing to answer your question was just, don't get caught as the meat in the sandwich. So I kind of tried to pull in, let Dylan get in front of me, and then just sneak in behind him and try not to lose the race on the first lap, because you surely can't win it.
And I think that wound up being the smart decision, because you did wind up winning it. You had to deal with Dylan chasing you much of the way, but it looked like by about halfway through the race, you were kind of keeping him far enough away that he wasn't a threat anymore. Did you feel any pressure with him chasing, considering he's a two-time champion?
I definitely felt the pressure. I really like the flow of this track, and that's one of the reasons why I raced tonight. And as long as I'm kind of locked in and focusing, I feel like I had some good pace and can keep a gap to Dylan. But as soon as I started kind of dozing off or drifting off, I see the gap starting to come down and I have to refocus. So he certainly kept me honest, and I kind of messed up my pit stop and he didn't. So not a perfect race by any means on my end. So definitely kept me honest.
Now, I checked and I did not see any of you in last season's results. Do you think you'll stick around for this season and give Dylan a run for his money?
We'll see. I think I might have had one race last season. I might do the next couple in this, but some of these guys actually inspired me. I ended up picking up a real life race car for myself earlier this summer, with the hopes of racing with some of these guys on the track. So I'll have my work cut out for me trying to figure out which way is forward on that thing. So we'll see if I can sprinkle in some sim time, but that's going to be the priority for next couple months.
And I think you can't be blamed for prioritizing the real car. Regardless, impressive stuff out there today. Congratulations on an opening race win.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everything you do, and we'll look forward to next race.
That was Thomas Isabel, your winner in the number 9 car. Alex has caught up with Dylan Scott, who chased him home.
Yeah, our two-time reigning and defending champion. Dylan, not an easy one out there, but a good solid start to another title defense.
Yeah, I'll take it. I do not gel with this track. It is not a favorite at all. Actually came in to the night thinking 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th. I really wasn't, expecting 2nd, maybe not even podium. But watch those two guys battle up front. I'm like, go for it, knock yourselves out. And then 3 wide, I'm like, uh-oh, this could be trouble. But yeah, it was a bit of fun. I don't know what Thomas and Jad were doing that I just couldn't find that last few tenths to get up there. So yeah, I resigned myself to potentially be off the podium. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I think sometimes you've got to look at the longer game when we've got another 11 rounds in front of us. But still, nevertheless, I mean, to see you, Jad, and Thomas literally go 3 wide was a bit of a heart in the mouth moment for us here. But of course, next time we head to the Bend for round 2 in a couple of weeks. You're looking forward to that one?
No commentator's curse, please. No. It's funny. I'm not even sure that I know the track. I mean, I know it, but I don't know it. I've never driven on it. I've got no idea. There's about 1 million turns. I don't know how any of us are going to figure it out. So, yeah, there's zero home track advantage at this thing. Don't even go there.
Oh, no. I wasn't even going to go there with that one, but it puts everyone on the same run that everyone's got to put in the wheel time. But as always, great to have a chat with you, Dylan. Before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, of course, you guys, GSRC, make us look good always. POC and my kids, Nico, Luca, Aurora, love you guys. Thank you.
Big thank you there to Dylan. And I think, Joe, you've caught up with our 3rd place finisher, Mr. Dustin Heindel.
Hey. Indeed, who definitely wowed us today. Dustin, quite the defense out there. It looked like, especially at the end, BJ and Jad practically crawling all over the back of you.
Yeah, BJ had a tiny bit more pace, and then he pitted early, so I pitted to try to defend it. And then I knew I had a chance to defend him, but I wasn't quite as fast, so I just defensively did everything I could. But yeah, that last corner going side by side was pretty wild. I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It was exciting from our perspective as well. This has been a long time coming. You didn't manage to finish on the podium at all last season. Is this kind of the shot in the arm that you needed?
Well, we have a couple really fast guys that have joined recently, like Blake and Thomas are very fast. So I'm kind of trying to watch their laps and see if I can improve.
And then I guess one of the big questions that we've always wondered, because we don't really usually get to talk to you, what's the story behind the Cookie Monster livery? Is there anything special?
No, not really. I just like goofy liveries. That last time it was the Cartoon Network one, which is like my childhood. This one, the googly eyes, when I'm following someone, is always a kind of a riot. Everybody's laughing in the chat every time I'm behind them. So, no, just having fun.
Well, we love that fun spirit that some people bring to racing. We enjoy the paint scheme and hopefully enjoy the race down in Australia. We look forward to talking to you at the Bend.
Cool. Have a good one, guys.
That was Dustin Heindel finishing P3 in the number 117, which wraps us up with, again, a big thank you to Porsche for being our sponsor. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And then Top Gun Wealth, your retirement wingman. You can find them at TopGunWM.com. Thanks to the team today, Alex, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next time out, down to the Bend, one of the newer tracks here on iRacing, and thankfully not the ultra long version they'll be running, but it is still an extremely long version with a GT layout, as you can see on the track map. That'll be July 27th at 11 p.m. More racing coming up on the channel later this week, including the Queen City Formula Series going to Spa-Francorchamps. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
Is iRacing.